Good morning and welcome to the coverage of the European highlight of the year, the European Championship. My name is Oliver Gurman. I'm one of 4 commentators this weekend and I'm joined by Luke Withington.
Hey Ollie, how's it going?
Very, very well. We've had quite the exciting days yesterday and the day before. We did a city tour through Dublin. We interviewed half of all the national champions in attendance. You guys were talking about decks for like, I don't know, 30 minutes or something?
Yeah, it was great. We managed to sit and talk about all the decks that we were expecting to see this weekend.
Right. So we got a lot of stuff in and we're going to show that to you during the course of the day, really. Between matches, some of you have asked if you're going to hear to that lovely Yu-Gi-Oh! Theme song, and I don't think you're going to listen to that too often. We're going to have interviews with the national champions instead and deck breakdowns. The big topic leading into this weekend is, of course, who's going to go to the World Championship.
Yeah.
We got all of Europe's finest in here in Dublin for the, well, I would say highest level of competition, really.
Yeah, so this is the last chance for you to get a seat in the World Championship.
Yes, and also the only chance, I think, if you're European, of course.
Yeah, exactly, and there's not that many.
Right.
So
yeah, we got almost 800 players enrolling in the main event, coming to Dublin, to the Congress Center. And we're going to kick things off with a bang. We got the reigning European champion, Eugen Heidt, who won last year's event. And he's going to go up against his countryman, Florian Behrend, also from Germany. He's from the area around Bremen.
yeah,
in the
so
north.
he's back to defend his title, and we'll see. So the meta's changed quite a lot since last year. So
Yeah.
we'll have to see. Has he been able to adapt to that?
And these two are also bringing 2 of the elephants in the room with
Yeah,
us, with
very much
Eugen, of
so.
course, piloting the Nekroz
the
deck.
big blue elephant in the room.
Yeah, very
the
blue
Nekroz
elephant.
deck.
And you were a fan of Florian's deck, as far as I could tell.
Yeah, so Florian is playing the brand new card, Wavering Eyes. It's actually the first tournament, well, the first big tournament it's going to be legal at. It really changes the way the Qliphort deck can play. Sometimes they open a lot of their helix and carriers,
Right,
and
so they're sitting on a slow hand.
Yeah, it doesn't really work out for them. But if they have Wavering Eyes with that hand, it allows them to do some really interesting combos.
Right. Okay, and then they can suddenly fight out of that position.
Yeah, so
and
they
come
can
back.
go and find Scout from the deck, which is obviously the most important card for Qliphorts to have.
We have seen a number of players going also to the local game store in Dublin, trying to get their hands on a copy of Wavering Eyes.
Yeah,
it seems to be that much of a difference maker
Yeah,
in this.
everyone's been trying to get a hold of one because it is very powerful. And
Right.
hopefully we'll see some play with it in this next match.
And what about the Nekroz deck that Eugen is playing? You
Yeah,
said it's
so
also kind of unique.
It's quite interesting. Yeah, so I think we saw this first at the North American World Championship Qualifier
Last week, yeah.
where people are playing the Enforcer of the Nekroz and the Great Sorcerer. They're the 2 that we don't really see. They're not that popular, but they allow you to do different things when they get banished and when they get tributed. So it's whether it's sending cards from the deck to the graveyard, or whether it's adding cards from your banish pile to your hand.
Yes.
Or I think one also special summons a monster from the graveyard or banish pile. Can't remember, but we'll see if they make an impact.
It seems
He's
to me that the community was like somewhat split down in the middle, with half of them saying these cards are really not that good,
Yeah.
and the other half saying that they are very good.
Yeah.
What is your opinion?
I've not had a chance to test them yet, so we'll see.
Yeah.
So we have the reigning European Championship, who seems to think
He plays it, so
he plays it. So that's pretty good.
must be pretty good.
What's also quite interesting is he's main decking Shared Ride. I see that as kind of a decision that I want to beat the other Nekroz decks.
Right.
We were talking yesterday in the profiles that people are necessarily overzealously trying to beat the Nekroz decks, and that's kind of what happened at the WCQ, where people were really gunning to beat the other Nekroz decks, and all the Nekroz players kind of got into this cycle of trying to beat each other,
Right.
and then forgot about all these other decks that exist, like
Ritual
Qliphort and Burning
Beast,
Abyss.
yeah.
Ritual Beast, exactly. So that was the perfect example of a deck that just kind of showed up out of nowhere and showed that it could do these crazy combos while still
Right.
playing some floodgate cards.
Well, you can tell we got a lot of stories going into this weekend. We're not going to waste any more of your time. We're going to take you right to the feature match table, where we're going to see Florian on the right-hand side and Eugen on the left, or maybe the other way around. We're going to show that in just a second to you. Those 2 guys are getting ready. There you see them with our unique layout of the feature match table, really. And Florian also, we told you that Eugen is the reigning European champion, but it wasn't his only success this past year. He also scored 2 more times, coming into the 2nd place at YCS Madrid, I think, and 3rd place at YCS Bochum. So he's got 3 big results.
Many good tops happening.
Yeah.
In the past year, and now I've just caught in the corner of my eye that the Qliphort player has opened the Qliphort Scout.
All right. As always, we're gonna have these cards on the app for you. On the right-hand side of the screen.
Yep. So Qliphort Scout, very important card. It allows you to go and search your deck for any Qliphort card that you need to shape your hand into that kind of great opening play. So let's take a look at his hand here.
Right.
He seems to have opened double Qliphort Stealth, which is
Pretty
not
good.
ideal. You don't really want that.
Oh,
to be in
right. I
multiples.
was mixing it up with the Scout, of course.
Yeah.
You want to have as many Scouts as possible.
So you want Scout, but Stealth not necessarily in multiples. So let's wait and see what the rest of his hand contains.
In the meantime, we can take a look at Eugen's hand.
Yeah. So Eugen seems to have opened not any of his 1,000 hand monsters, so Manju or Senju. Okay, and so we got Bryanak, Colossalus, the good searchers in the deck, and 2 different mirrors. So one of the great opening plays for Eugen to make here would be to use Kaleidoscope to summon one of the monsters that he gets off Bryanak.
Mm-hmm. All right, and now we got the complete hand for Florian.
Yeah, so we see that he's opened 2 fantastic trap cards against the Nekroz deck, being Lose One Turn and Rivalry. Yeah, so the very basic play, he's going to play the Scout, which allows him to go and search his deck for a Qli card. He goes and gets his Sacrifice, another very interesting card for Qliphort, which, when it is sent to the graveyard, allows you to go and search your deck for more Qli cards.
Yeah, so you got this engine going for a little bit longer.
It kind of keeps the engine safe in a way, because if the board gets wiped somehow, then he's going to be able to go get another Scout from his deck,
right,
using the Sacrifice.
And Eugen drew into Senju of the 1,000 hands.
That's actually probably one of the best cards he could have drawn.
Excellent
to
opening
finish
for both
his hand.
of these players, right?
Yeah. However, he does have Lose One Turn, and there's not a lot Eugen can do about that right now. So can we take a look at Lose One Turn?
Of course, yes, we can bring that up. That's also one of the newer additions that we didn't really see in the past.
Very important. So when a monster is special summoned, during the turn it was special summoned, its effect's negated. Also, when it's special summoned, it's switched to defense mode.
Right.
So any of these big ritual monsters that the Nekroz deck can summon, it's just going to be sent to defense mode, and its effect's going to be negated.
Right.
So
it's one of these so-called floodgates.
Floodgate cards, yeah. So it poses a problem for the Nekroz deck up until the point where they can destroy it and then continue with their plays.
If someone is not that familiar with the whole terminology, why do they call them floodgates, the players?
So it's the idea behind your opponent suddenly having a ton of cards they just can't play. And in this case, Lose One Turn is negating.
There we go.
Yeah, so this is actually another amazingly
floodgate,
big floodgate card, which is Rivalry of the Warlords. This, as far as I remember, only allows you to have one
monster
type of monster on the field. So Senju of the 1,000 Hands is a fairy monster, and there are no fairy Nekroz monsters about. So
whatever Eugen will summon, it's going to be sent to the graveyard right away.
Yeah. Or
I think he's not even allowed to summon anything.
To summon it.
I think it should hit play and
it should hit play and then go to the graveyard.
It
should definitely hit play and then go to the graveyard.
Oh, we're gonna have a judge at the table.
Yeah, so the judge is probably gonna have a look at that now.
Yeah.
But so as far as this turn's concerned for Eugen, there's not much else to do.
Yeah. And now Florian doesn't mind that Manchu's staying on the field, right? Because it's basically blocking Eugen.
Yeah, it's just stopping him from doing anything. He may go ahead and kill that next turn to get some battle damage in.
You said earlier Eugen is not going to have much fun in that first game.
Yeah, well, we've seen it straight away. Yeah, I was reading the 2 deck lists and noticed that Eugen didn't really have many cards that he can use to
fight out of this position.
This exact position. In fact, I was talking about Rivalry of the Warlords and Lose One Turn. So I don't really know what he's going to be able to do here. I think he's going to go searching.
Yeah, let's take a look at his hand. He does have a number of options, of course.
Yeah, but nothing that's going to be able to deal with that rivalry of the Warlords very effectively.
And if he just goes for one monster the whole time, how effective is that gonna be?
Unless that's going to be Trishula being summoned to banish that rivalry of the Warlords, then
not so much.
That's not going to be effective at all. And as we see, Florian has a lose one turn set as well. This is looking a really bad position for Eugen. But by the looks of it, he's managed to clear his field, and he's going to use the Necroz cycle to try and
just
summon a
ran into with the Manchu just attacked, or the Senchu.
So that's he's going to be able to use cycle.
That is to lose one turn.
Yeah, as soon as the decisive armor was summoned, lose one turn straight away. So that's going to get switched to defense mode, and its effect's going to be negated as well. And actually, even if you just flip that lose one turn up, decisive armor's effect allows you to target a set card on your opponent's side of the field and banish it. So he no longer has any set cards on his side of the field. So
right. So it's going to stay where
decisive
it is.
armor's not much use right now. And if I remember correctly, decisive armor is quite a strange type. I think it's a dragon.
It's a dragon, yes.
It's a dragon, yeah. So not many of the Nekroz monsters are dragons. As far as I remember, a lot of them are warriors and spellcasters. So if he just sits behind this monster that's got sacrifice on it, which stops it being destroyed by battle, decisive armor is not going to be doing him much use. Just sat there on the field, not being able to do anything. And
but
play is just going to
what
be
about the follow-up for Florian? I mean, he's got a good defense. Does he have a good offense here?
Yeah, so a great play that Florian can make is to tribute his stealth on the field for the stealth that's in his hand. Now, Qliphort's stealth, when it's summoned, allows you to target a card on your opponent's side of the field and return it to their hand.
Right.
It's also got a 2800 body to attack with, which is fantastic. And that would also get him a sacrifice search. And as well as that, he has a scout search next turn as well. But I don't really know how Florian's going to go ahead and play this out, because if he leaves the decisive armor just on the field, then it's restricting Eugen from playing any of the monsters.
Right.
But we'll see, because Florian might be able
there is a chance that it is making more sense to not attack.
Yeah, maybe, but we'll see, because the idea of the Qliphort deck is to kind of sit there and allow your opponent to struggle against a lot of your floodgate cards, a lot of these continuous trap cards that are stopping them from using their effects, and then just summoning a really massive amount of monsters and just attacking for all of your opponent's life points all in one go.
What they often call an OTK.
OTK. Yeah, a one-turn kill. Yeah. So
right. Now, I've seen that a couple of players are going like exclusively for this one particular strategy.
Yeah.
They are playing Qliphort, for example, with 0 trap cards. So rather than like Florian's approach, where you try to be defensive and lock your opponent down,
stop them from playing.
They want to go off like on the very first turn if possible.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that, for example, Marcello Barberi, one of the
I was speaking to him yesterday also. He was telling me about his idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says it's very, very promising strategy, and it should be catching quite a few people off guard.
Yeah.
Now that the secret is out, maybe that's no longer the
maybe
case.
not so.
He can blame me if he doesn't do well this weekend.
Yeah, so we're just waiting to see what happens here. I think Eugen's trying to shape his hand into something that's going to be able to destroy the setup that Florian has, but there's not a lot in Eugen's deck that's going to help him. He doesn't have anything to remove lose one turn and rivalry of the Warlords.
And what about that? Because we had that discussion with Shared Right versus Mystical Space Typhoon. This is one of the matchups where you really want to have your Mystical Space Typhoons rather than Shared Rights.
Very much so. In this situation, Mystical Space Typhoon would be able to solve some of his problems. But so I think they seem to have stopped playing. So I don't know if they have a judge call.
Yeah,
they might have a judge call. So we
possibly
can just
interference, maybe with that decisive armor that targeted the set card.
Well, I think what it was is he played lose one turn on the summon of decisive armor, and many players have been getting confused as to whether decisive armor would switch to defense mode when it's summoned. If you played lose one turn on the summon of it, whether it would be switched to defense mode or not. A lot of players have been getting confused with that. It does in fact switch it to defense mode because it triggers when it's been special summoned, so you can that does work like that.
Okay.
But I think we're going to see the
we're going to see that in just a second. Play is going to resume very shortly.
Yeah,
and
so we can
actually now we do have the outcome here with the decisive armor switching to
so it's in defense mode.
So you were, of course, correct.
Yeah.
What other decks are we going to see this weekend? I heard a couple of players are going to try and make an impact with Burning Abyss, for example.
Yeah, so we saw at the North American World Championship Qualifier that Burning Abyss kind of took people off guard because they have, I don't want to say infinite resources, but it seems that way.
Yeah.
When you're...
It feels that way when you're going up against them.
Yeah, so if you destroy the Dante, then Dante gets its effect, which gets Seer from the graveyard, which then Seer allows you to special summon the Dante back, and that kind of small loop allows you to just keep blocking your opponent's attacks and defending from those attacks.
Oh, and
Yep.
here we go,
So here we
back to
see.
our game,
Yep.
with Florian now making a very big move.
Yeah, so Scout went and looked for the Qliphort Monolith. Monolith's one of the newer cards for the Qliphort deck. Whenever you've tributed a Qliphort monster during that turn, you get to draw a card for each in the end phase. So at the moment we're looking at one card that he tributed because he tributed off that other Qliphort Stealth.
Yes, and
So-
also the sacrifice is going to trigger now.
Yeah, so here we see the Sacrifice is going to trigger and Stealth's going to trigger as well. It's a you can effect, so whether he wants to bounce it or not, it's up to him. So we're going to see him search for Sacrifice. That lets him go get any of the Qli cards.
And what would be your decision here? Would you bounce the dragon, the decisive armor?
I think I probably would at this point because he's able to go and search
Deal a
directly.
lot of damage?
Yeah,
or-
and yeah, deal some damage. So actually, I was wrong earlier. He didn't go and search Monolith with Scout. He must have just drawn it. So he still had that Scout search. He's gone and got another very interesting card for the Qli deck, which is Recreate. It's like a pseudo skill drain.
Yes.
In effect. So whenever I always get this the wrong way around, but I think it's when a level 4 monster is normal summoned, level 4 alone normal monster is summoned, its effects are negated, and if one 5 or higher is special summoned,
Special
it's
summoned, yes.
negated. I think I got that the right way
Yeah,
around.
I think that was perfectly
Yeah. So
correct.
that plays perfectly to the
It stops
Qliphort
Manchu and
monsters.
Senju,
Yeah,
and
stops
it
Manchu
also
and Senju.
stops pretty much all the threatening Necroz ritual monsters.
Yeah, well, actually, it doesn't stop Manju and Senju when it's already face up on
Yeah,
the
but
field
when it's already face up, yeah.
because of the way the chain gets built.
Because it triggers, it's not really like skill drain.
No,
because
it
use the
does
chain.
trigger. It activates, and because when you summon a Manju or a Senju,
Right.
their effect's going to trigger. But because their effects are optional and Recreate is mandatory, then Recreate has to activate Chainlink 1, and then Manju or Senju gets to activate Chainlink 2.
Okay, so we have a lot of cards on Florian's side of the table, and he's still
Yeah.
holding on to 2 more cards.
Yeah. So as we've seen, what just happened is he has some of the stealth. He has chosen to return the decisive armor back to Eugen's hand.
And then he goes for
And
the
then he pendulum summoned the 2 monsters from his extra deck. Now, of course, they get affected by lose 1 turn, but not affected by Rivalry of the Warlords because they're all the same type.
Yeah, so this is a perfect fit for the Qliphort deck, really.
Yeah,
And we didn't see that too often, right?
No, I don't think we've seen that at all. At all,
What is your
really.
reasoning? Why would players not play Rivalry if it's such a good card in the Qliphort
I
deck?
honestly don't know. I played the Qliphort deck when it first came out, and we didn't have a lot of these really powerful trap cards to be used in the deck, and I don't know why Rivalry wasn't played. So
Right, and Eugen is again looking for
he's
something.
looking for an answer, yeah. So he's going to play Reinforcements of the Army. Now, there's not many targets in his deck for Reinforcements of the Army. He can go and search his famous Djinn out Bullblader, or he can go and search for Clausulus or Charit, both of the Nekroz. And we'll see where he goes from there. So he still seems to be resolving that Reinforcements of the Army.
Yeah.
So let's see what he gets. So
And can you
looking-
identify any line of play that would really get him out of here?
No, there's not a lot that he can do. I mean, he's going to be able to summon 1 Nekroz monster each turn, which is going to have its effect negated, and then not going to be able to summon any more because of Rivalry, and it's going to be switched to defense mode. So, I mean, in this situation, this is all Eugen's going to be able to do every turn. He's going to summon a monster, it's going to get switched to defense mode, its effect's going to be negated, and then Florian's going to be able to attack over it with all his powerful
So does it
Qliphort
make more
monsters.
sense for Eugen to just concede the first game?
I think it does. I can't see anything in his deck list that's going to get him out of this situation at all.
I don't think he has to concede because that game is not going to last very
Yeah, no,
very
but so
much longer.
we see, but he did have a Valkyrus in
Valkyrus.
hand. So the Nekroz of Valkyrus allows you to discard it, banish a Nekroz monster from your graveyard, and then that blocks the attack and ends the battle phase for
Right.
this turn.
Sometimes I see players that want to just see a few more cards from the opponent's deck before they want to well, go for their side deck.
Yeah,
and
so
prepare for the
again,
second and third game.
that's a very interesting point. So Eugen here so he can continue playing, and although we see that he's not necessarily going to have a chance of winning here, he is going to kind of drag it out as long as possible and try and defend himself so that he can catch a glimpse of other cards his opponent's playing. So here's the next Qliphort monster that we've seen normal summoned. So Qliphort Disc. When it's summoned, you get to go and search your deck for 2 more Qliphort monsters and special
summon. You also got
them.
the Monolith, which means you're gonna draw some more.
Draw some more cards.
So Florian is in a, I would say, unbeatable position, really.
It's pretty unstoppable right now. He's managed to get... So we were speaking earlier about the Qliphort deck and how it kind of stops your opponent from playing for a little while and then gets to this critical mass of just tons and tons and tons of Qliphort monsters, and then you can just pendulum summon them every single turn. And yeah, so Florian is just... He's just drawing cards and drawing cards right now.
All right. So
let's see what Eugen draws.
He does have access to half of his deck with the Brionac.
Yeah. Oh, that's a very interesting draw. Yeah, so he can try and defend himself a little bit more here with this Regeki.
But it's also not like he's
not gonna win because of the Regeki.
Yeah.
But
he's not in any position to, for example, that Florian is going to run out of monsters or anything like that, which you sometimes see in other decks that have a very disruptive strategy.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen here.
Well, no, because you can just keep pendulum summoning them back.
Yeah.
So let's just have a quick look. Is he playing... No, he's not. I was just checking to see if he was playing Climate Change, which is a card which lets you recover some of your monsters from the extra deck. But he doesn't seem to be playing it. But yeah, I think Eugen here. So he's chosen to discard Brionac to go and search for a Unicorn, and then now he's using Nekroz Kaleidoscope to summon the Unicorn, and he's going to use Herald of the Arclight's effect. So this is kind of one of the really bread and butter plays of Nekroz. You play Kaleidoscope, and it allows you to send a monster from your extra deck that's the same level as like a pseudo tribute for your Nekroz monsters. And he's summoned Unicorn here, and he's going to be able to go and search his deck, because when you send Herald of the Arclight to the graveyard, you can go and search a
It's so easy to gain an advantage in this deck normally.
Yeah, but it's one of the really core plays.
This is why the opponents are playing the so-called floodgates that try to equalize that advantage.
Yeah, so... Yeah, Eugen's not having a very nice time right now. Before we just went live just now, I did say it was going to be a really tough matchup for Eugen.
Yeah. We conducted an interview with him yesterday and asked him about the whole thing about playing in the feature match, for example. And he was very keen on playing in the feature match. He thinks it's good for him because it's easier for him to analyze what he did wrong after the match if he can watch it back.
That's very interesting.
Then improve for the next event, of course. So you can tell that Eugen is one of these players who really want to improve all the time. They're never really satisfied with their performance.
Yeah.
Even if they're winning.
Yeah, so we just saw a very interesting play here. So Eugen seems to be kind of gunning for it here. He used the Nekroz cycle to tribute a Chariot that he set from his hand. Now, the reason why he set that, you could have tributed the Chariot from your hand, but the reason why he set it is because if he had Mind Crush, if your opponent plays a Nekroz Ritual spell card, you can respond with Mind Crush and alter their hand if you call the cards right. So just declare a card in the game, and if they have it in their hand, they send it to the graveyard. So a really basic way to play around Mind Crush in the Nekroz deck, especially when playing Nekroz Cycle, is to set Chariot, because you contribute it from the field.
Right.
And the interesting part about that is it actually gets around Rivalry of the Warlords, because Chariot is set. It doesn't have a type at that point.
So it's a very small thing, but it can make a very big difference in certain matchups.
Oh yeah, definitely. So we can see he's not going to be able to normal summon any other of the monsters in his hand.
And it's a fair assumption that Florian would also play Mind Crush, given that he's playing so many
very much so.
cards anyway.
He's playing 2 Mind Crush in the main.
Oh, okay. So either Eugen already knew that Florian would be playing something like that, or he just made the correct read here.
Yeah.
In any way, a very impressive move there. Like you said, it's such a minor thing, but it can make a big difference.
Yeah. So here, what he seems to be doing is trying to get as many monsters on the field as possible, and then he's going to be able to use that Regeki to
push hard.
Push for damage. I mean,
because the Qliphort deck, of course, is never on 8,000 life points, thanks to that Qliphort Scout, really.
Yeah. So because he just keeps paying his 800 life points for Qliphort Scout, he's going to reduce his life points quite a lot. So he's actually on 4,800 life points. That's because of Florian playing Upstart Goblin, which gives Eugen some life points.
So if Florian would go searching again, does Eugen have enough damage already? We got the Unicorn.
That's in
got
total 5-2.
2-1. Yeah.
So these two cards is 5-2. This is really interesting because right now
So Eugen might have
he
identified
actually has enough
a line
damage
of
here.
plays that could help him win the game, which is
Yeah.
something that we both were like, no, this is never possible.
Yeah. And this pendulum summon here is not going to do any difference because Regeki destroys all the monsters on your opponent's side of the field.
Wow. So Florian Behrend thinks he's sitting in the most comfortable of positions.
Yeah,
He's got a million cards in his hand. He's got pretty much all of his zones are full. He's got one more slot, and that's pretty much it.
But we are going to see here, he's going to tribute the Qliphort carrier for stealth. So what stealth and carrier both do allow you to put a card from your opponent's field back in their hand. So he's going to be able to put both the Unicorn and the Valkyrus back to Eugen's hand here, which was probably the best possible.
He diffused that bomb, so to speak.
Yeah, very much so. So I don't know whether it'd be quite interesting to know whether Florian knew that was going to happen.
Right.
Because we were kind of looking at that and thinking, oh well, Eugen doesn't really have an out to the situation.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
But instead of trying to out the situation, Eugen actually decided, I'm just going to play. I know I'm in this tar pit that is Qliphort's. I'm just gonna play with what I got.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting that is what he chooses to do. But you know, we'll see whether Florian knew that.
So the stealth has now returned one of Florian's own cards, and the Eugen's.
I think he returned stealth.
So he's be able to loop
he's gonna loop
this
the
whole
stealth,
turn.
yeah.
And I think that's also a very, very correct play.
Yes,
because
very correct.
he's never gonna be in that position where Eugen can just OTK him like we said.
Florian has so many cards on the field right now. We're actually struggling to see how many cards he has on the field.
Yeah. Yesterday when we tried, when we did a test run with the app, there was one situation where we had like 10 cards on the app, and it was very hard to like select the right card and everything because it gets a little bit cluttered.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, it's a little hard. And then the leader of our tech crew was like, yeah, it's never going to happen that somebody has so many cards on the table. And, well, it seems like Qliphort is perfectly capable of that.
Yeah.
But Eugen was running out of options here, even though he did identify one line of plays that could have turned the tide.
Yeah.
And that means Florian takes the first game, leading 1-0. Very, very interesting match. Like you said, lots of small things that could have made a difference.
Yeah, so even just that last play that we saw there, Florian actually, I was looking at his hand and I was thinking, you know, so what kind of things here can we see that's going to absolutely close this game out? And he said his Fiendish Chain of all the cards he had in his hand, so that was actually a very interesting card for him to set, because there was a possibility for him to get Regeki or Dark Gold and then be OTK'd in one turn, which is the
So
Chain
what are these guys going to go for here? I mean, it seems like Florian's deck doesn't really need to side deck because he's got so many answers to Nekroz anyway.
No, so the only cards that I can really see, so in Florian's deck, we see, in the side deck, we see that he's playing...
it's Climate Change.
Yeah, Climate Change.
Necro Valley, Dust Tornado, Maxis, Mystical Space Typhoon, one more copy of Wavering Eyes, one more copy of Rivalry, and then 3 Shadow Imprisoning Mirrors. Yeah,
so I think the cards that are going to go in from the Qliphort player here, so a lot of people might think this is strange, but so Mystical Space Typhoon is going to go in here.
Oh.
Now, we don't see a lot of cards for Eugen that are going to be trap cards, but the interesting reason for that is because Florian's probably going to think to himself, well, Eugen's going to be side decking lots of trap cards to stop mine, which he is, which is Royal Decree. Now, Royal Decree stops all trap cards.
Yes, of course.
So Florian, I
needs
think
an answer
he's
to
gonna
that.
he's gonna sacrifice a few of his trap cards, or possibly the Upstart Goblins are usually ones that I straight away take out of my deck as a side deck option.
Right.
And he's gonna put in those Mystical Space Typhoons so that if Eugen flips over a Royal Decree, he doesn't just lose. Because if the Qliphort player has no trap cards,
then he can, all of that impressive back row that crippled Eugen so much in the first game is just gonna be completely useless.
Yeah, it'll just be useless
with that one card.
Yeah, so it seems quite strange because Nekroz don't really play a lot of back row cards, but that's the reason why.
And we can expect Florian to make that read, of course, that he expects to see those cards.
Yeah, I'd expect.
What else does Eugen have that's going to come in apart from the Royal Decree?
So Eugen's probably going to take the same approach and put in his Mystical Space Typhoons to be able to pick off these back rows, because again, we're going to take one step higher, and Eugen's probably going to think to himself, well, Florian's going to know that I'm playing Royal Decree, and he's going to put his Mystical Space Typhoons in.
So I need to fight those.
I need to fight that off. And
what about Denko Seka?
Situation like that. So yeah, Denko Seka, very interesting card. Quite a lot of hype all over social media about Denko Seka, because when Denko Seka is on the field, if the controller of Denko Seka has no set cards, then no player can set cards or activate set cards on the field. Now, if your opponent has four set cards and that's all they have,
it's often game over.
Yeah, so it's there's a lot of stuff on social media about that people laugh about it.
Right.
It's a very interesting card. So Denko Seka can be an amazing opening play to start off a turn if you can lock down your opponent's back row and then be able to use the Trishula. That's just gonna give you a lot of advantage.
Right. Okay, who do you think is going to be winning that second game?
So, I think that Eugen's probably going to have side decked quite a lot for this matchup because of the kind of popularity that it had at the WCQ. And we'll see. So let's have a look at the hands that we've got here. So Eugen has a Decisive Armor, Unicorn, Valkyrie, Senju, that's pretty good. And I think that we've just seen Wavering Eyes being played. So
yes,
that's a brand new, very interesting card. It does a lot of different things that we'll probably get to talk about all its different effects throughout the weekend. And one of the most important ones is that when it's played, you get to destroy all of the pendulum cards in the pendulum zones.
Is it fair to say that this one card brought Qliphort back?
I think
that a little bit of an overstatement?
No, I think that's a perfectly good thing to say, because there's some hands in Qliphorts where you, as we were saying earlier about Carrier and Helix, they're not really much used by themselves. They're good for tributing, and that's about it. They're not really good as pendulum scales. You really want Scout and Monolith as your pendulum scales because they have really powerful effects. But if you have those and nothing else in your hand, really, you can't do anything. That what's now changed that is you can add Wavering Eyes to your deck, and it makes it so that it just makes those hands much more playable, because you can destroy them and go and get your Qliphort Scout, which in turn allows you to go get your Qliphort Monolith. And
yeah, it sounds like a pretty good perfect setup.
Yeah, these are the cards you want.
Okay, so Florian's got a Pot of Duality, Stealth, and Fiendish Chain in hand. Oh, Fiendish Chain I think went down there.
Yeah, so I think he might have set Pot of Duality as well, just as a bluff.
Oh, okay. So this...
But we'll see.
We're going to have that in just a second. In the meantime, let's check out Eugen's hand. He's got,
so
again,
he drew
the Nekroz
another
of Decisive
Senju.
Armor, Unicorn, Valkyrus, Senju.
Yeah.
He does have a Mystical Space Typhoon, so that's going to be key in this matchup.
Yeah, so what's probably going to happen here is Eugen's going to summon one of these 1,000 hand monsters, which allows him to go and search for a ritual monster. Senju is the one that gets a ritual monster, whereas Manju gets you either. And we're going to see Florian probably try and Fiendish Chain that immediately, because that's a correct play to make. But Eugen does have Mystical Space Typhoon.
I don't think that Mystical Space Typhoon is going to be used on the Fiendish, because when you like over the course of last year, when you saw the champions that went up against in these particular matchups, they were always saving those Mystical Space Typhoon for the most important cards, which were cards like Vanity's Emptiness.
Yeah,
in this case, I would guess Rivalry of Warlords or maybe lose one turn.
Yeah, the only reason I say that he would be using that in this situation is because if he summons Senju and then has that Fiendish Chain, he has no other plays to be made.
Yeah.
In his hand. So whether he's willing to wait that turn or whether he's going to be able to choose to use that Mystical Space Typhoon on the Fiendish Chain, that's up to him.
Right.
So we'll see. So yeah.
So actually, there is a reason to play Mystical Space.
Yeah, very much so. Because Eugen has no other options right now. If that is Fiendish Chain, he's probably just going to pass his turn.
Yeah.
Because he has no other options. But he does have another Senju in hand, so he might be willing to wait a turn. But we see that Florian has filled up his extra deck quite a lot.
But do you remember Eugen at one of the last events, I think in Prague, where he just passed play basically when he was like, I don't have a good hand, so I'm just gonna wait for one more turn.
Yeah.
I think he's willing to take that risk.
Yeah.
Also, the longer he waits and thinks about responding or not, the more obvious it is to Florian that he does have a Mystical Space Typhoon.
Yeah. So I think he might be thinking it out right now. We'll soon see. He may just pass his turn and wait and then see what...
How likely is it that he's going to see another turn?
that's the thing. It's whether he's willing to take that risk. I don't think at this point, if he decides not to play Mystical Space Typhoon, he is going to lose all of his life points next turn, because the extra deck's filled with Qliphort monsters, Florian, and he's just going to be able to pendulum summon all of those and attack for a lot of damage.
Right.
And so something about Wavering Eyes, depending on the amount of pendulum zones it destroys. So we were talking about Wavering Eyes earlier. It inflicts 500 damage as one effect.
Eugen figures he has to get rid of that Fiendish Chain.
Yeah, I think there was no question about it. He had to do that.
It's very interesting, because I remember seeing them waiting forever with these Mysticals and like giving the opponent 5 searches with Qliphort Scout, not minding that at all, just so for that one moment when the Vanity's Emptiness was flipped, when they went to basically go big or go home.
Yeah,
they had that Mystical Space Typhoon in that situation.
Yeah.
And I like you said, Eugen doesn't really have that time here, simply because there's so much waiting for him in Florian's extra deck.
Yeah, so Eugen's line of play here, I see he's going to probably go get Bryanak. Bryanak's going to go search for a Clausulus. Clausulus is going to allow him to get Nekroz Kaleidoscope, and then he's going to be able to use Nekroz Kaleidoscope to summon that Unicorn from his hand. I think that's how I see this playing out. So yeah, that's what's happening.
Yeah,
he's going
to be the Yu-Gi-Oh! Fortune teller here.
So yeah, he's going to use Kaleidoscope. So we were talking a bit about that earlier, how you can send a monster from your extra deck to the graveyard to summon a monster of the same level from your hand. That's a Nekroz monster.
And so he's got like a lot more follow-up plays.
Yeah, so we've got so much to talk about Eugen's turn right now. So he's going to play this. He's going to be able to summon Unicorn, and then he has a search from the Herald of the Arclight, and he's going to just be able to take a ton of different plays here. So one of the plays that he could make is to try and make an Exceed monster. Now we see that Eugen is playing the Exciton Knight. Now I haven't had a quick count, but it looks like he might.
Florian's got 7 cards. 4 on the field, 3 in hand.
Yeah.
And Eugen at the moment, according to the app, has 6 cards.
6 cards. Yeah, so he's going to be able to go and search for one and overlay into a monster that's going to leave him with the same amount of cards. So he's going to have to question what he wants to do here. Now, he also has Valkyris in hand, which means he could send a level 12 monster from his extra deck, and then Kaleidoscope allows you to summon monsters up to that level. Well, sorry, exactly that level.
Yeah.
So he would be able to send his Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon from his extra deck to the graveyard and summon both Valkyris and Unicorn, which is what he's... Oh no, that's a Gungnir.
Oh, maybe there was an... Yeah, it seems like we had one card incorrectly.
Incorrect, yeah. So, well, okay, so yeah.
That's even better,
roughly the same play. He's going to be able to send a Star Eater from his extra deck and summon Unicorn and Gungnir. Gungnir's effect's actually really, really good against Qliphorts.
Yeah.
It allows you to discard a Nekroz card and destroy 1 card on your opponent's side of the field.
Especially helpful against Stealth, for example.
Well, especially helpful against
Scout.
Yeah.
I keep mixing those two up today.
Yeah. So what we saw here was Gungnir attacked into his opponent's Stealth, and he used the Nekroz of Decisive Armor, which boosts its attack points by 1,000. So, and then he's going to be able to attack with those other monsters, and he's going to make an Exceed play here. Now, so he's got a lot of options. What he could go for seemingly goes for Cowboy.
Yeah, Florian is just on 1,200.
Yeah, so that puts him down beneath Scout range, so he can't pay for Scout.
Wow.
That's very interesting.
Very explosive first turn for Eugen Heidt here in the second game. Also, do you agree with his decision to let Florian go first, actually? We didn't even talk about that.
Yeah, but there's no reason not to take your 6th card, especially when you are side decking so many cards to stop your opponent.
You need to see those cards, and there's a higher chance that your opponent is not drawing into
so
any of
5
his...
cards versus 6. It's quite it's only 1 card, but it is quite a big difference as far as probability is concerned.
But otherwise, you would be able to, for example, stop a Scout search with a MST. But we said you're most likely not going to use a MST on that anyway.
Yeah.
There's no drawback really.
Yeah, MST in this kind of situation, in this matchup, I see it as a use it when you have to.
Okay.
And that's what Eugen did here. So we see Florian is on a clock right now because Gaga Cowboy,
he needs to get rid of that Cowboy.
Exceed monster, when it's in defense position,
Let's bring it up
Allows you
for
to
you guys.
detach
I mean,
an exceed material and inflict 800 damage.
I think most of our viewers are actually familiar with the Cowboy because chances are you've lost at least one game thanks to that card.
Yeah.
Or maybe you won at least one game thanks to that card.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's the case.
Yeah. It's actually a very shiny Cowboy. That's an ultimate Cowboy from the Astral Pack. Yeah, it's very nice.
So it seems that MST 100% correct to play that here.
Yeah, I think so.
And Eugen now sitting suddenly in a very good position.
Yeah.
What does Florian need now? I guess a Raigeki wouldn't be too
Florian
bad.
would, yeah, so that Raigeki that we saw from Eugen when he top decked that in the last game. So I think what's going through Florian's mind right now is, I need to clear his field. What's the best way to do that while also playing around the effect of Nekroz of Gungnir? So Nekroz of Gungnir's effect is going to be prevalent here because he can just hit Qliphort's scout.
Okay, and also, just in case you guys are wondering, the rest of the main event is already in the overtime. So we're going to be able to, well, of course we're going to have a little bit of time in between rounds.
Yeah.
But today I don't think you guys will mind that because we have so many interviews of the national champions and the strategy breakdowns where we explain basically all the decks that we're going to see this weekend, right?
Yeah.
What did you talk about? Nekroz?
We talked about Nekroz, Qliphort, Shadow, Burning Abyss, Ritual Beasts, Satellanites, and one more, which is escaping. Qliphort, yeah. Of course, we're watching it right now. So we see here that Florian's managed to play around this Gungnir play from Eugen. Now, Eugen's not left with a lot of stuff in his hand and on his field. However, the powerful part of the Nekroz deck is when their mirrors are in the graveyard, their ritual spell cards, they can banish them and another Nekroz monster from the graveyard to go get another mirror from their deck. So again, we're talking about these field zones being filled up. Florian seems to have a lot of... He's gone from not a lot of cards to quite a lot of cards in a short amount of time.
How did he come back? He did the pendulum summon? Yeah,
so... something that we completely missed is the fact that Eugen didn't have a Nekroz card in his hand to be able to use Gungnir's effect. Completely missed that.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's something we completely missed. But so that's probably why Florian managed to do that play flawlessly without it. But he still played around it because he entered mid phase 1, did his pendulum summon first because it's when it's an open game state, he's allowed to pendulum summon. He gets the first move. And that's something that doesn't start a chain, so there's no way for him to kind of stop that with Gungnir. And then he did have a stealth in hand for him to be able to tribute those monsters that he pendulum summoned, which got away with that Cowboy. However, Cowboy's gone back into Eugen's extra deck now.
So if Eugen is able to perform another rank 4 Exceed summon...
Yeah, so what have we got on the field for Florian here?
No,
is there anything that's going to stop this? Anything that's going to stop... Right, so there's nothing for Florian on his field right now that will stop a Cowboy play. So Eugen is just going to be able to summon Senju, go search for a Unicorn, play Kaleidoscope, summon Unicorn, overlay into Gaga Cowboy, and inflict 800 damage directly.
Right.
He's going to be able to win using that line of play.
Is there a chance that he's not going to go for that line of play, fearing that there is something in the back row
that's very possible.
Keeping him from
That's very possible. But I think at this point, Eugen's
has to
take the risk. He's
Yeah.
going to take the risk. I don't want to be using too much of my fortune telling abilities in just the first round, but we'll see what happens.
We
here.
see that Cowboy at the very... There we go. He's on the very top of the extra deck.
Yeah, so he's sent the
Herald
Herald
of the Arclight. Yeah.
So he does go to get a search. Now this is the point here. So
This is where Florian would flip half of his cards, basically.
yeah,
if there was something like a Rivalry of the Warlords.
Yeah, Mind Crush, Rivalry of the Warlords, anything like that. So he seems to be using Necroz Cycle. Okay, this is fantastic. So he's used it to get Decisive Armor back, and then he can use Decisive Armor to reduce the number of face-down cards that Florian controls by 1, because he can banish one using Decisive Armor's effect. And then he can just summon Cowboy and hit him for 800.
There we go.
Very casually.
The equalizer.
Very casually placed on the
Cowboy
field
shooting
there.
from the hip and making it 1-1. Excellent line of play. Eugen Heidt, we got to give it to him. Seriously.
That was fantastic. The idea behind making Cowboy in that turn previous, so it protected him against Scout being able to spend 800 life points on his effect, and it allowed him to, at any point, because he knows what stealth does. Stealth can bounce cards back to the hand, and if at any point he tried to bounce that Cowboy, he could just summon it again. As you say, he's got 2 guns. He can he can inflict those 800 life points over and over again.
Right. We got around 5 minutes left in our round here in our match. So the main event, the rest of the field is already in overtime and about to resolve those still ongoing matches with the end of match procedure. And we still have a little bit of time left, and now we're going into the third and deciding duel. And it's, how important is it to win your first round?
So for me personally, when I play tournaments, I believe that the first round is really important. It gets you in that great mindset of, cool, my deck's working, it's doing what it's supposed to do, I'm kind of warmed up, because if you have a bad round in your first round, you're not really warmed up, you know, it just, you kind of feel a bit sluggish, because like, oh, my deck didn't really perform how I wanted it to.
There's also the fact that if you're teching against Nekroz, for example, and you expect most of the better players to play Nekroz, you want to play against the better players, and they are very likely to win their respective matches.
That's another fantastic point.
So you need to win your first, I guess, 3 rounds even.
So
end up in this part of the field.
This big, in a tournament this big, it has to be the first maybe 2 or 3 rounds that you're going to see potential rogue decks. Especially around round 3 or 4, when you get the really powerful rogue decks which have been beating decks up until that point. That's when you really kind of get to see it. Now, so we see the opening move from Florian here was just to set 4 cards, and Eugen, by some miracle, decided to play Galaxy Cyclone and hit Sacrifice by the looks of it. Now that's pretty unlucky.
That's an excellent read.
That's really unlucky,
if we call it that. What do you think about Florian's decision to go first?
I think it's a great decision because you can get all of your floodgate cards out. It's one of these situations where both players want
the same player to go first.
Yeah. So that was really unlucky by Eugen. Really unlucky, because now Florian can play.
It looks like they're playing a very different game now suddenly with all of those face-down cards on both sides of the field.
Yeah, however, Eugen, we can see, has 2 mystical Space Typhoons.
Ooh, so he can be quite liberal in just playing those Space Typhoons and everything, because he has so many answers.
So Florian's actually going to have a really bad time right now, because he's just lost one of his scouts, and then he played Summer's Art, which got him another scout, so he's going to pay another 800 life points to go and search from his deck, and that's going to be stopped right off by a mystical Space Typhoon.
Do you think Eugen is going to go for it, or instead save it for one of the floodgates?
No, it has to be that, because the Forbidden Limited
He's committed
list says
to that play.
You're only allowed to play 2 Qliphort scouts. And at this point, all we see in Florian's cards is Skill Drain, Ravelry of the Warlords, a Fiendish Chain, and a Wavering Eyes in his hand. Now, there's no monsters there, to be honest, Ollie.
Yeah.
And to be able to beat your opponent and destroy all their life points, you need monsters.
You need monsters, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to have to see what he draws into here.
So now it's basically Florian's floodgates against Eugen's, Nekroz plays if he ever starts making any of these.
Yeah,
so far we didn't really see both of these decks do what they're supposed to do.
No, Eugen doesn't seem to have any blue monsters, which he can summon with his ritual spells. But he's actually really set up to be able to do that. So we're just waiting for him to see one of these ritual monsters.
Right. And Eugen also sided into a Mirror Force here.
Yeah. So we were talking about that earlier, about his very interesting side deck. He's siding a lot of strange one-ofs. So Mirror Force, Breakthrough Skill, the one Galaxy Cyclone, that's less strange because he's playing Mystical Space Typhoon, but so Breakthrough Skill and Mirror Force, both quite strange for him to just seemingly at random.
Yeah.
So here we see
Eugen was about to start going into the Nekroz engine.
Yeah, Eugen actually drew the perfect card as far as he was concerned, which was a Manju of the 10,000 hand, which that allows you to go and search for any ritual card from your deck.
But Florian is committed to making another payment.
Yep. So
skill drain stopped that.
yeah, as you said earlier, Qliphort's very much willing to sit and pay life points, and it seems as if he top decked a Qliphort Helix.
Carrier.
Is a carrier. I can barely see it. So that immediately, as soon as it hits the field, it gets normal summon. So you can normal summon it, which reduces its attack points to 1800. But because of skill drain, that shoots straight back up to 2400.
So while Florian doesn't have any more scouts now, that carrier is going to be very hard to beat, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's just a big monster, and we have skill drain.
So
and Eugen's not really seeing anything right now that's going to be able to get over that. He needs to perform a ritual summon to be able to do that. That's very interesting that he's playing.
There's a Nekroz cycle, yeah.
Because
Shurid, and he did draw.
Oh, there we go. He drew Nekroz of Trishula.
Oof, that's a pretty big draw there.
Yeah, but still, we have skill drain on the field.
Yeah, we got skill drain, so it of course doesn't trigger.
Yeah.
And let's bring that guy up. We're going to see that card a little bit more often this weekend.
Yeah, we actually see that he played. We can't see it quite clearly on the stream, but he played Necrovalley as well. The Qliphort player. It's quite a strange thing that you see, but it
mostly for the fact that nobody's allowed to banish anything.
Nobody's allowed to banish cards from the graveyard, and nobody's allowed to move a card. So it negates any effects that would move a card from the graveyard to anywhere else that isn't itself. So if a card moves itself, then that's okay. But if it tries to move any other card in the graveyard elsewhere, that's negated. And that's very good because Qliphorts don't do that. They don't move cards around in the graveyard.
Qliphorts don't interact much with the graveyard.
Yeah, they do that with the public extra deck. Yeah. So.
Okay, so it's now basically it's Trishula versus Carrier, and thanks to the skill drain on the field. Even with the skill drain on the field, the Trishula is the stronger monster.
Yeah.
And Florian doesn't really have a way of stopping the attack, or does he? Fiendish Chain if he wants to.
Yeah, he has Fiendish Chain, but we're seeing
also
here.
Flipped Rivalry.
Yeah, he just played Nekroz Kaleidoscope.
Yeah, on the second ritual spell.
Yeah.
So Eugen just lost the ritual spell.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a big deal.
He's not going to be able to search for any more thanks to that Necrovalley on the field.
Yeah, we're in quite a basic game state right now. It's who's got the biggest monster in the minute, and especially with that rivalry of the Warlords on the field. Happy that his big monster is a Trishula. Not one of the smaller Nekroz monsters.
So basically it was a pretty good draw for Eugen.
Yeah.
To come out of this situation.
Yeah, definitely. The only better possible draw was Decisive Armor, because that would have been even bigger.
Right.
But still, it's a good draw. We're just going to see, I think we're going to see quite a basic gameplay from here for a little while at least, where you're just going to see them attacking with monsters.
Okay, we just heard it. It's time on the round for these two guys.
Yeah, so...
this is probably why we see that die right there.
Yeah, so if it was called on Eugen's turn, this is now turn 1 of 5. So what happens in time, if people watching don't quite know, so we get a few extra turns. So in the Swiss portion of the tournament, it's going to be 5 extra turns, starting when the turn is passed. And then at the end of that, it's whoever's got the highest life points.
Yes. So at the moment, Eugen is sitting in a pretty good position.
Yeah. So again, referring back to that, the fact that Qliphort just keep paying for things, and Florian's not feeling great about that right now.
It's probably another factor why the MST play so early were actually a very good idea.
Yeah.
Because even though Florian might eventually gain the upper hand with all of those floodgates, and Eugen no longer being able to stop them with his Mystical Space Typhoons all gone, he's up higher in life points, and Florian normally needs a little bit of time at least to unleash all of those plays.
Yeah. So we see from Florian, he drew a Qliphort Carrier, and what Carrier does when it's in the pendulum zone is increases the, I can't remember which one it is, but it either increases the attack points of your Qliphort monsters or it decreases the attack points of your opponent's monsters. That's Carrier and Helix. I can't remember which way around it is. But
either way at this
point, we know that those two monsters are going to be on the same attack points now. So Carrier, all of your clear monsters gain 300 attack points. Yeah, so the
both monster traded places
the monster on the
by
field.
the dust.
To just attack into that.
And Florian's now got a Effect Veiler, pretty much the same thing as a Skill Drain, really. So I would say not much help. I think he said it just to be able to defend his life points from taking any more damage.
Yeah.
So this is his field. He's playing without cards in his hand.
Yeah.
And Eugen, on the other hand, he did draw into a Nekroz of Unicorn.
Which isn't much use right now.
Yeah, because normally that would be one of the easiest challenges for him to just banish a ritual spell from his graveyard and go searching for the next one. However, the very, very old card, Necro Valley.
Eugen just drew Denko Seka.
Oh.
It's very interesting. So we were talking about Denko Seka before.
So he can do some damage now with Denko Seka, eventually at least.
Yeah, the thing with Denko Seka is right now it's just a 1700 attack monster because it's not... It's
1700 is not too shabby though.
No. So this is turn 3.
So Eugen has one more turn.
Yeah. So
Florian has one more turn as well. And Eugen is ahead in life points.
Yeah, so I think... okay, so this is now turn 4 and it's Eugen's turn. So the last turn is going to be with Florian.
Yeah, so there's the Fiendish Chain on Denko Seka, so Florian doesn't have to take any more damage.
Yeah.
So and Eugen sets another monster.
Yeah, why
now
not?
Florian needs to deal at least 3,000 points of damage to, well, get another turn.
Yeah.
And has to have a chance to turn this game around.
Yeah, well, if they both have equal life points, we end in a draw. So he has to win right now. He has to inflict over 3,000 points of damage to be able to do anything. Okay. However, so we have seen that Florian has been able to complete his pendulum scale here, by the looks of things, and he's going to be able to pendulum summon a lot of his pendulum monsters here. Now, I don't think
Eugen has a Mirror Force.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be enough because of that fact.
Spoiler warning right there.
Yeah.
So even though this might look promising for Florian,
yeah,
Eugen does have the Mirror Force.
I don't think he's got enough monsters in his extra deck, to be honest. He's only got 2 scouts and Carrier, I think, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I think we saw. Yeah, we definitely saw Carrier.
Yeah. So here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And very interesting because this feels a little bit like 10 years ago when cards like Necro Valley and Mirror Force were like clutch.
Ooh, this is really, really interesting. So we see Wavering Eyes. So this is the core use of Wavering Eyes is when you play it, it destroys all of the cards that are in the pendulum zones, and then it has different effects based on how many you destroy. And you also get them compoundingly.
Yeah.
So if you destroy 1, you get something. 2, you get 1 and 2. So at this point, he gets to go and
search. He can search for stealth, I think.
Yeah, so he's going.
So there's a chance he's going to bounce Mirror Force?
Oh, well, there is, but that's got to be pretty lucky at this point. So I think he's going to summon that. He's going to attack.
Oh, he's just normal summoning.
Gonna have
tribute summon.
Yeah, so he's going to summon that. Eugen's going to play Mirror Force when he attacks, and that's going to be the end of the game.
Yes, there is the Mirror Force.
There we go.
And there's the handshake, of course.
Yeah.
But was there any other chance? I mean,
no, I think Florian made the best play. That was the best play to make.
Very great start for Florian Behrend in this game.
Yeah.
At the first game.
Yeah.
Even though when we thought it was over, Eugen Heidt still found a way to set himself up for a kill.
Yeah.
However, Florian did find an out with Qliphort Stealth. Second game, Eugen won.
So we see our European champion lose in his first round. So that's unfortunate. But we also
the first game.
The first game. So we don't get to see any of the cool tech cards that Eugen was playing in his Nekroz deck. We didn't actually get to see any of those.
They have a lot of outs just for the Chinlock. You can really tell that these guys are coming prepared for the mirror match.
Yeah.
But they are also, I think it seems like the other matchups, when they have to go up against a deck like Qli, they just try to decide with their skill, with their experience.
Yeah, or they really just take that chance that they're not going to play against them, or at least try and side deck heavily against them, and then just use that. But unfortunately, even with Eugen opening with 2 Mystical Space Typhoons, he still didn't have enough.
almost not enough. All right, so Eugen Heidt is on a very good way pretty much to defend his title after that first round victory. Do you think it's good for Florian Behrend if he's now going up against some other rogue decks that might have not been able to win the first round?
At this point, probably not. So his
deck is
very
uniquely
geared
prepared
towards
for Nekroz.
Nekroz, yeah. So it's quite strange that both of these decks that we saw here were both prepared to play against Nekroz.
Yeah.
So we were talking about this yesterday with the WCQ that everyone kind of turned up wanting to beat Nekroz, but everybody did that.
Right.
Including the Nekroz players.
So, what's your prediction then? Do you think that a deck like the Ritual Beast, like they did at the North American Continental Championship, are they going to do well against this weekend?
I was hoping that people would. So, like last year, what happened? We swapped them around. The WCQs were the other way around, and none of the decks in the top 8 were the Heidt deck that was going around in the European World Championship qualifier. And then when we got to the North American World Championship qualifier, that's all we saw.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that they learned how to combat these other rogue decks that were going to be beating them.
So basically, is it the best version of Nekroz that we've ever seen?
I think this one here.
In general, at this event, are we going to see the best version of Nekroz?
It's hard to say. You can never really say that a deck is the best it possibly can be. It's whether it's the best for today, and that's the real question. Is if you turn up and you play against 9 Nekroz decks and you're playing Nekroz and you're out to beat Nekroz, then you're gonna go all the way.
Yeah.
But if you get unfortunate and play against these like Qliphort decks and things like that, then unfortunately you're gonna.
It's one of the questions that I asked pretty much all of the national champions.
Yeah.
What is your favorite matchup? What would you like to play against the whole day? And almost everyone said, I want to play against Nekroz, because everybody comes here and Nekroz has a target on its head.
Yeah, everyone's ready for it. That's why when the Ritual Beast players turn up, I mean, Joel Winston showed us, he turns up with a deck that no one really knows how it works.
Yeah.
Especially, psychologically playing against Ritual Beast, it has a lot of big, long, drawn-out combos. It's quite a strange way that it plays, bringing cards in on and off the field quite a lot. It's just quite strange. It really kind of
it's very hard to follow as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very hard to follow. So just that kind of.
But the thing is, it does come with a price, in my opinion, because over the course of 8 rounds, you're going to lose some of your focus. It's very hard not to.
Yeah.
And then even though the deck might be carrying you the first 4 rounds, the other 4 rounds, when you need to be at the top of your game, you might be struggling.
Yeah.
That is definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Well, something else to keep in mind is Eugen Heidt is going to be here in just a second. We're going to talk to the champion, ask him about that match. We're going to take another short pause for the cause. After that, you're going to be back, and we're going to revisit some of the highlights of this game.
Yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to that. If you have been a long-time follower of the stream, well, long time is very relative in this context, because we just started 1 year ago.
Yeah, it's a 1-year anniversary, actually.
Yeah, it's our anniversary this weekend. And all right, so we're going to be right back with Eugen Heidt, the winner of the first round, also the reigning European champion. And after that, we're going to take another look at the highlights of the first round. So stay tuned, and we're going to see you in just